U.S. assisted in an operation to take out one of Mexico's most powerful narco-terrorist cartel leaders. National News Desk's Kayla Gaskin's joining us live from Capitol Hill with more on this. Good morning to you.
Well, good morning, Jan. So during this evening's address, we do expect President Trump to point to this operation that killed El Mencho as evidence of his administration's hardline approach to drug trafficking and border security. Now, a U.S. senior official says multiple agencies contributed through a Pentagon joint task force, with one force saying the CIA was instrumental in this operation, especially when it came to locating this notoriously powerful Mexican drug cartel. Mexican authorities, however, are calling the U.S. support complimentary. But, Jan, what this does represent is a significant improvement and escalation in cross-border cooperation between the United States and Mexico when it comes to addressing these drug cartels. It's also a sign of how President Trump has made combating the cartels a central pillar of his national security strategy. The takedown comes after President Trump repeatedly warned Mexico that the U.S. would take direct action to bring the cartels under control if Mexico didn't do it themselves, and that pressure, Jan, does appear to have played a role here. Live on Capitol Hill, I'm Kayla Gaskins reporting for the National News Desk, America's News Now.
All right, Kayla, thank you very much. Cartels continue operating even after the leaders are no longer running the show. And the National News Desk's Angela Brown joins us now with more on this. These cartels, Angela, have basically built these complex financial networks. I mean, they're essentially companies, so they're going to keep running regardless of who's in charge.
It's crazy when you put it in that perspective, that these are large corporations with layers upon layers that need to be brought down before the house can come down. These cartels don't fall apart just because one leader is taken out. Experts today say these groups are running more like corporations with layers of managers and cells that keep operating no matter who is arrested. A lot of us think of Pablo Escobar and how the Medellin cartel collapsed after he was killed, but that cartel was built around one man. While there were other factors that brought it down, his death was a major blow. Today's cartels are different. The structure outlives the leader. And according to a new reporting from Fox News, today's cartels are nothing like the cartels of the 90s back in the day. They've evolved into these franchise models in some ways, with dozens of cells that operate independently. This even trickles down to the farmers. Cartels, they have a lot of control over their supply chains right now and the raw ingredients used to make cocaine. President Trump, of course, going after these cartels, delivering a very stern warning. You may remember this last year.
I don't think we're going to necessarily ask for a declaration of war. I think we're just going to kill people that are bringing drugs into our country.
Now, we know the Trump administration says it's shifting focus toward the cartel's infrastructure, targeting money laundering networks and also some of those precursor chemical suppliers to make those drugs. Now, other administrations have tried the money route as well. You may remember in 2011, the Obama administration sanctioned individuals accused of laundering funds for cartels, but nothing seems to slow these down. They keep growing. Targeting the money does weaken the cartels for a while, but it doesn't kind of cut it off at their knees. They're diversified and they're global.
I'm Atra Al-Nashar in Washington. Many American tourists in western Mexico are stranded. Mexican authorities deploying thousands of troops across the region as they work to restore peace. Violence and chaos breaking out after a military operation took out the country's most wanted cartel leader. Pandemonium in Puerto Vallarta.
It really did look and feel like a war zone. And I think that feeling of anxiety, that feeling of what does happen next or what could happen next is driving what a lot of people are feeling right now.
American tourists stranded in the popular Western Mexico vacation destination, the U.S. State Department urging them to shelter in place.
If you love your life, stay here, don't go anywhere.
Fallout from a Mexican military operation that killed one of the world's most wanted cartel leaders, Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, known as El Mencho, head of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel. U.S. Deputy Secretary of State Christopher Landau says, "This is a great development for Mexico, the U.S., Latin America, and the world. The good guys are stronger than the bad guys." And P.S. I'm watching the scenes of violence from Mexico with great sadness and concern. It's not surprising that the bad guys are responding with terror, but we must never lose our nerve. Animo, Mexico. American tourist Roseanne Hope says there was an explosion near where she's staying.
We ran up to the grocery store and there were like 50 people in there just taking all the food off the shelves like you'd see in COVID.
Mass flight disruption Sunday continuing into Monday.
We hope that during the course of today, or at the latest tomorrow, all the flights will be restored.
Most of the hundreds of roadblocks put in place by cartel members had been removed, Mexican authorities said Monday. The State Department running crisis hotlines for Americans impacted by the unrest who need assistance. One for those calling from the U.S. and another for those abroad, including Mexico. The White House voicing support for the operation that killed El Mencho, calling him a top trafficker of fentanyl into the U.S., and confirming the U.S. provided intelligence support to Mexico. President Trump issuing a statement saying Mexico must step up their efforts on cartels and drugs. In Washington, I'm Atra El-Nashar.
Now to the mayhem in Mexico. Waves of cartel violence struck on Sunday in response to Mexican military forces killing a powerful cartel leader known as El Mencho of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel. Block by block here, we see cars and vehicles burned. The windows here of shops just shattered out by explosives and bombs and gunfire. This is just right here a glimpse of the aftermath. Dozens of people killed in both the operation and ensuing violence that erupted across several cities.
It really did look and feel like a war zone. And I think that feeling of anxiety, that feeling of what does happen next or what could happen next is driving what a lot of people are feeling right now.
Several airlines suspending flights to cities like Puerto Vallarta, and many routes won't resume, we've learned, until Wednesday.
So I was supposed to fly back to Minneapolis yesterday, and of course that flight got canceled. So I've just been trying to figure out how to get home.
Tonight, the U.S. State Department still urging some Americans in those affected regions to shelter in place and at all times avoid crowds.
Continuing coverage, let's take a look back at how we got to this point. The Jalisco New Generation Cartel, or CJNG, emerged around 2010 after the breakup of an older criminal group in western Mexico. Led by El Mencho, as Ryan just mentioned, the cartel quickly expanded through violent turf battles and strategic alliances. U.S. authorities say CJNG became one of Mexico's most powerful drug trafficking organizations, moving methamphetamine, cocaine, heroin, and fentanyl into the U.S. and other countries. The group drew international attention in 2015 after allegedly shooting down a Mexican military helicopter, killing 6 Mexican soldiers.
I'm national correspondent Kayla Gaskins in Washington. We're tracking the fallout after a deadly crackdown on one of Mexico's most wanted drug lords. Tourists in Puerto Vallarta are being told to shelter in place as cartel violence erupts. And now there's questions about what this all means for the upcoming World Cup event in Guadalajara. Americans trapped in Mexico.
In the mountains, you could actually kind of see smoke, just a huge areas of black smoke kind of filling up the skies.
Violence erupting after Mexican forces killed the notorious cartel leader known as El Mencho, head of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel. Authorities say more than 70 people died during the operation and the chaotic aftermath. In Puerto Vallarta, a popular Pacific Coast resort city, tourists describe seeing smoke rising in the distance and being unable to reach the airport.
Yesterday was definitely scary. It's like scenes out of a movie.
The hard thing is to get information, honestly. A lot of it has had to come through like Reddit and social media.
Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says the administration is closely tracking the situation.
Secretary Rubio and the State Department are absolutely on it.
The White House confirming the U.S. provided intelligence support to the Mexican government. A senior U.S. intelligence official says multiple U.S. agencies contributed through a Pentagon-led task force, with one source saying the CIA was instrumental in the operation. The crackdown comes as President Trump has made targeting cartels a day-one priority, warning Mexico of tariffs or other action if criminal groups are not reined in.
He has made it a day-one priority to target and go after these vicious drug cartels that have shipped deadly poison to our country for far too long.
Meanwhile, in Guadalajara, attention is turning to the 2026 FIFA World Cup. The city is set to host 4 matches with the playoff event scheduled next month.
Cartel violence erupting on the outskirts of the city. Scenes of burned buses and vehicles lining the streets, spurring the postponement of 4 professional soccer matches this week.
The stadium in Guadalajara, set to host the World Cup matches, is roughly 60 miles from where El Mencho was killed. Late Monday, FIFA said it has full confidence in its host countries, including Mexico, and is monitoring the situation closely. In Washington, I'm Kayla Gaskins.